All right. I'll action go on here. This is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. Off to a rocky start here, but it won't stop me because I caused the rockiness. Just wanted to comment last night about on last night's game between the Bengals and the Cowboys. For the second night in a row with the NFL evening games, you had a fantastic finish. On Sunday night, the Chiefs, they got a first down after having the Chargers exhaust all their timeouts. They're in position to kick a field goal, so they melt the clock all the way down. Chip shot, right? 30, 35 yards, whatever it was. Kicker can do that in his sleep, right? Well, what ended up happening was the kicker hooked it. And when he hooked it, it hits the goal post and bounces in. All that work, and it came down to a shank kick by a kicker. And then it came down to the fortune of the Chiefs to have the ball go between the goalposts. Great ending, right? Last night, the Bengals forced to punt after the Cowboys came up with a great stop. All they got to do is get the ball and go down and kick a field goal, right? Well, the Bengals helped them out a little bit. They even blocked the punt. Cowboys in great shape, right? Well, Leon Lett-ish, one of the Cowboys tried to pick the block punt up, fumbles the ball, and the Bengals get it. Now, if you're not familiar with the rules, if you block my punt and the ball is rolling around on the ground, as long as you don't touch it, it's going to be your ball. But once you touch it, it becomes live. It's just like a regular punt. If somebody punts to you and you muff it, it's a live ball. Well, the Cowboys did just that. The Bengals fell on it, got a fresh set of downs, and they rolled in and they scored a touchdown to win the game. Dramatic fashion, 2 nights in a row for the NFL. I've been hearing now for the last couple of years that fans believe that the NFL, these games are staged. I met this guy that tells me he works for a company. He says they get the results of the games before they even happen. Now, how he's able to do that or how that's possible, I have no idea. But this is what the guy tells me. So entertainment, with the money that these guys make, it's not out of the realm to believe that some of these things aren't actually staged. But I just find it kind of odd, or exciting if you're a football fan, which side how you look at it. It's great for the game, great for ratings, but you have to wonder sometimes, is it real? Fans, as rabid as they are, they can get tired of things too. I think the NBA is starting to shift in that direction. These guys are making these monster salaries and they don't want to play. And I give the example because I knew this happened to somebody I know. Kid wants to go see their star player down in Orlando. That's the closest NBA team here. Say they want to go see their closest team in Orlando. They look at the schedule. They see when this team is coming to town. They buy the tickets. And then when they get to the game, this guy, he doesn't play because he's load managing. I don't want to get into that. But I think if you're making these big contracts, you're healthy enough to play, you should be out there playing. And these guys aren't doing it. And the fans are just starting to turn on it. And it's unfortunate because this guy Silver, he comes up with these new ideas that makes the NBA more interesting. Like now they have that NBA Cup that they're doing at in-season tournament, which I think is great. But have I been watching it? No, because I'll tell you this, and you basketball people can get upset all you want, but as far as I'm concerned, basketball is just something to do until football comes around. And if you have a conflict between watching the NBA or any kind of basketball against any kind of football, then basketball is going to lose every time in my book. And I know some of you basketball purists don't like that, but it's just the way it is. Basketball will always be second fiddle to football in the United States and anywhere else. Now, those endings have always been good in the NFL because those teams are so close. They call it parity. Parity is good for any league. And this is why, you draft these players and they all train pretty much the same. And, you can flip and flop and mix and match. And one player might make the difference over here, but he might not do anything over there. And, teams go up and down on that fashion. But that's what parity is keep everything pretty much close. And now you're seeing that even more so in college. Now, just to give you context on that about the level of play, college was not much better than high school in a sense that you had to play with what you had come through your doors in high school. And you have a team over here that's loaded against a bunch of peewees and you get a bunch of blowouts. Oftentimes those teams like that, they won't run against any competition until they get somewhere in the playoffs. Now, teams or players are moving around more so in high school, transfer rules, recruiting, however you want to classify that these teams come together, they all making it more so of a competition disparity because you have all these teams loading up in certain areas. There's always been a big disparity there in high school. College wasn't much better. You take the Big Ten, just look at Michigan, Ohio State, and how they pretty much dominated. Everybody else was always a tier or two below those two schools. And every now and then one of them would jump up and compete with those top two. But for the most part, Ohio State and Michigan dominated. That's why that game is so big up there, because it's the battle of the two big dogs. Who's gonna take it this year? But with this transfer portal now and reduction of scholarships and now NIL reducing college rosters even more, you don't have these big disparities as much as you used to in college football. It's becoming more like the NFL. And because of that, parity is all over the place. And this is the reason why you have the situation that's taking place with the college football playoffs. People in the SEC are all up in arms because Alabama was left out of the playoffs in favor of SMU. Well, SMU is deserved to be in the playoffs, but they look at SMU as a team that doesn't play much competition. They lose to Clemson in the championship game, and they look at how Clemson got destroyed by Georgia in the first game of the season. Yeah, they did beat Clemson, but they pulled away from Clemson in the second half. Clemson didn't really have any footing then. They weren't playing their best ball. I'm not saying that they can beat Georgia. I think Georgia's still a better team than Clemson, but it'll be a much different game. Plus, teams that lose early in the season, if they play that same team later on in the year, it's going to be a completely different game, even if one team was superior to the other. But Alabama fans are hot because they feel like they should be over SMU. Could they beat SMU? Probably. But the point is, you didn't qualify to get to that point. They feel like all these teams in the SEC can beat any other team out there. Is that true? Maybe. But is it possible? No, because they try to make the unrealistic expectation of these teams outside the SEC that they should play every team in the nation or every team in the SEC when they don't do the same thing with the SEC. I told you guys before, all these conferences are set up just alike. You got 2 or 3 teams at the top, 2 or 3 at the bottom, and the rest in the middle. And all those middle teams, they're going to be having some eye-scratching games. It's going to be close. It's going to go down to the wire. But that doesn't mean because you have a close games that your teams are better than anybody else. I've seen plenty of teams that blow others out or take it easy. And when they play against these teams that are supposed to be so superior, they whip them too. Then you have no excuse. Well, the playoffs are going to show you exactly what I've been trying to say all this time. Now, Tennessee, they did get into the playoffs. They beat Alabama. They're griping about their seeding. They got to go play Ohio State in the first round, and they feel like Ohio State should come to them. A lot of people feel that Ohio State is ranked higher than they should be. They're also saying the same thing about Texas. Texas, they don't really have very many victories over top teams. And it's a legitimate gripe, especially when you look at Quinn Ewers. He's a handicap for Texas, if he's going to stand there and stare the defense down. That's the second time he's played against Georgia, and Georgia kind of made him look average and it exposed him. Like I told you a couple of weeks ago, he's standing there looking at the rush and holding the ball too long, and the offense is there. He's got to make the plays. So the fans now are saying that this Manning guy, Arch Manning, should be the quarterback, or Texas does not have a chance in the playoffs. I disagree. I think Ewers is just going to have to stand in there and start playing some football. And if he expects to make it to the NFL, he needs to start playing like an NFL quarterback. Make your quick reads, get rid of the ball. Don't worry about the rush because you're going to get hit anyway. And with a team like Georgia, that Walker guy coming off that edge, you better get rid of it because that guy's an NFL player. And if you're not careful, he's going to take your head off and the ball, just like he did the first time. So I think that Sarkisian didn't make enough of the adjustments that I thought he should have made to get by Georgia. He didn't run that screen game like I thought he would. If you want to beat Georgia, you got to start screening that guy Walker and keep him off balance. If you can do that, you can beat Georgia. Georgia's just got the advantage over Texas because of the offensive and defensive line battle, and you was holding the ball too long. And even with all those advantages, the only reason Georgia, I thought, won that game was because their quarterback got hurt. They brought in the backup quarterback, that guy from Raven County, I don't know his name, but Texas didn't prepare for him. But in the playoffs, they're going to be prepared to play against this guy because now they got him on tape. Won't be any more surprises. The best surprise a team could come up with is to come up with a backup quarterback that nobody knows about, and that's what Georgia was able to do. They got 1,000 lives. You're going to have to beat them, but I think somebody's going to knock off Georgia somewhere down the line. But as far as the SEC getting all the teams in the playoffs, I think it's unrealistic. Maybe they could have got a fourth team. Big Ten has 4 teams, so SEC, they got 3. That's 2 conferences with 7 under 12 teams. Like I said before, if you think that all the spots should be taken up by these 2 conferences, separate them from everybody else and let them develop their own division of the championship. Let them play it out, and everybody else get their own division, and they play that out. But that's not realistic also because some of those teams and outside the Big Ten and the SEC can do some damage. Arizona State's playing some good football. Boise State is better than what you think they are. So if they show up and don't get afraid of the big lights, they got an opportunity to do some damage come playoff time. But I think the SEC, you had your chance. The regular season was a tournament, and if you didn't come through that tournament, then you just didn't. That's just the way it goes. And you might be the best, but at the same time, you still have to fit in the protocol. And if you're not taking care of your business one-on-one, then you leave it up to others. And the system says 12 teams over a national spread, and you cannot get all the teams and call it a national tournament. It just doesn't fly. But having said that, it's still going to be a good playoffs. And as we move along, I have more to say about that. But let me look at the comments. TFRM DeLanver, I subscribe to you. I appreciate it. Got some other stuff coming down the line for you in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to go live for a little bit longer periods of time when I have time. That's my problem is trying to do too many things. I act like I'm 21, feel like I'm 15. But when I look in the mirror, I look much older than 15. But anyway, NFL, though, you have to wonder if those games are fixed, just like I said. But you do have some great endings. Fans get their money's worth to some extent. I still think it's overpriced. I met a fan tell me the first week of the season that the Jaguars, he took his wife to the game, and just between the 2 of them, they spent $400 in one football game. I think that's rather much. And then when you look at the beer now, last year was $17 for a tall can of beer. Now it's going up to $20. What's it going to be when they open up this new stadium to pay for that? It's going to be $25 beers by then. You got to want a beer real bad to pay $25 for it. I don't care how much of a drinker you are, but that's another subject. But as far as the NFL fans go, there's this thing called Fango Media. I'm a representative in the Jacksonville area. I'm not affiliated with the Jaguars. I talk to the fans as they come out of the game and get their opinions about what they saw. A A lot of them had some big opinions on Trevor Lawrence get hit. I got mixed emotions about it. I say if he playing the game, he got pads on, I say he should get hit. And all this prima donna stuff and letting him slide and touching him and you get the penalty and all this other stuff, man, forget that. If you playing football, play football. And these guys are making enough money to be able to expect to get hit. If he gets knocked out, hey, that's part of the game, man. Nobody wants to see it. We don't want to see any dirty play. But if you playing the game, I want to see him get hit, especially between the whistles. But that's another subject also. But if you want to listen to what the fans have to say in every NFL city, because there's somebody like me in every city talking about these games, and you can find out those comments at Fango Media. Just pull up the latest videos, and then you can find all the latest stuff. The video I have on there is about the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence getting hit. But I had the link, but the connection issue knocked it out. So maybe I'll go back and put the link in later. But I appreciate if you guys would like and subscribe. Send me some comments, banter with me. I love to hear what you got to say. Packers game YT. I feel all sports are rigged, NFL especially. Well, why you say that? I gave you my reasons. It's all about TV ratings. So if you get good TV ratings, the league continues. But I think the league is to the point now where they don't have to do such things. But while it might be fixed in some areas, I still don't see how you can script the whole football game. It just don't seem like it's very possible to me. But I definitely understand what you mean about all these games being rigged, especially the NBA. I noticed that in high school years ago, these guys they would play a perfect game. And the referees would call a perfect game, and then when the last 2 or 3 minutes, the team that was supposed to lose, they started calling all kind of fouls on them and send the other team to the line. Recently, a few years back, when the Heat played the Mavericks in the championship, they sent Dwayne Wade to the line with less than a second to the free throw line. Come on, man, give me a break. Let the Heat and everybody else play it out, and we determine who wins on the court, not through the referee's whistle. Okay, Packers game, say I see the penalties, no calls, rigged with the refs. Yes, that's how the NFL can control these games with the referees. You take Patrick Mahomes in reference to running along the sidelines like Trevor Lawrence, and instead of sliding, what he'll do, he'll milk it for all he can get and then step out, and the guy's in the middle of trying to push him, and he'll make contact as he's getting to the sideline, and then they'll call a penalty on the defense. Well, I think they need to fix that. If you're going to call a penalty on form tackles, if the guy's stepping out of bounds and he's already start to hit you, then you should either waive that or call a penalty on the offense, and that'll put a stop to a lot of that. But if you understand the way sports go, it's always a call against the defense because the fans want to see offense. But as good as these guys are, and everybody's talking about how all these guys are the greatest, if you take the restrictions off the defense and let them play football, then you won't see all these guys doing all this. These guys are soft. They don't know nothing about running across the middle. And if you say the defense can hit you now coming across the middle, the whole game's changed completely. Then you're going to find out the truth. Because the defense, they just want to hit somebody. And as long as it's in the rules, they should be allowed to hit somebody. And until these guys understand what it's really like to play football, then you're going to have them running across the middle and with no fear and everything else. It's like flag football, man. And if they keep dumbing down the rules, it's going to be flag football in about 10, 12 years. Then what you're going to have? The NBA is going to go like the baseball almost went extinct because the fans lost interest with all those strikes and everything else. And if the NFL is not careful and keep watering it down, they're going to start losing fans the same way baseball started to lose them. Starting to get them back now, but it's not guaranteed to get them back. So just my thoughts on that. Anyway, we're getting rather late here. I like to go back and forth with you guys. Packers game YT, say I see Chiefs versus Lions Super Bowl. I don't think the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. I think Pittsburgh is going to beat Kansas City, and you're going to get a preview of that. I think they're playing Christmas Day. It's going to be a close game. They'll probably give it to Kansas City again. but I think Pittsburgh in the end can beat Kansas City to get rid of them. Um, Maybe Baltimore can get them, but Baltimore just doesn't have the heart to down the stretch to win these games. But Lions will win. I believe that's the plan for the NFL. It may be because the Lions, they hadn't won any championships since the 50s. And for those of you who don't know what I mean, the Super Bowl didn't start the championships for the NFL. Actually played championships years before the Super Bowl came into play. But the Lions did win a couple of times in the 50s, and they've been struggling mightily over the years. So it would be nice to see Detroit in there, but you're going to have to beat Detroit. But there are teams out there that can beat Detroit. They're not guaranteed either. But anyway, you guys have a great day. I got to go to work. Packers Game YT. Subscribe, and maybe we can hook up one day for a conversation live on the air. Until then, you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. This is Sports for Real. I'm out. Got to go to work. God bless, bro. Appreciate it. Same to you. Got to go. Thank you.